All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this. This is our Dwell Well Institute open house. I'm going to be answering some of the questions in the group after this. So I'm going to look through those questions and answer them live. But first, we're going to do a quick tour of the Dwell Well Institute, which is the membership site that we have started. The new educational membership community. It's for mold aware homeowners and building professionals, architects, facility managers. Anybody interested in this topic is welcome to join there. And so we're going to give you a tour. So Crystal is my able-bodied assistant that does all the things that look really good on my website. And she's going to give you a tour and share the details of what's included, and then we're going to get to your questions.
You all know Cheryl from avoidingmold.com, from her Facebook page, from CherylCiecko.com. And of course, we've been running a lot of online masterclasses, webinars, and courses for the past couple of years. So there's all sorts of ways you can learn with her, including free. If you go to avoidingmold.com, there's the YouTube channel and more. So Cheryl, being the generous person that she always is always looking for a way to help people learn more in the most value-packed way possible. So we wanted to introduce something that was even more affordable. It's actually going to be very, very inexpensive, which you'll see in a moment. But I wanted to show you some of the things that are included in the Dwell Well membership. So first and foremost, it is an educational monthly membership, meaning it's kind of like a subscription. You get every single month 4 different video lessons from Cheryl on your most requested topics. So I'm not going to maximize my screen because I feel like I'm going to lose my windows here. So I'm the one having tech issues this time. So first of all, we are going to have a members community, meaning just like almost like a Facebook group, only better because there's not the distractions of advertisements, other things going on in the feed. So for example, I'm just going to show you what we already have active with our beta testers, who are the students from the Building Safe Home course. This is the feed of our new membership community, and it's called Dwell Well Institute. As you can see, Cheryl's already in there posting all kinds of valuable information that people have been asking for. Members are able to have a conversation with us. Cheryl's very active in there. So if you're posting, unlike the giant group where it's just this endless feed that we can't control, just because of the way the algorithm makes it appear, in here, Cheryl is getting your notifications and is answering questions, and we're having discussions on all your most requested topics and questions that you have for building materials, mold remediation, and more. So that's one big reason to join, is because we have this new community and it's a lot more concise to find what you're looking for. So back to some of the stuff that is included. Sorry, my window is not cooperating here.
Crystal, there's topics too, isn't there?
There are topics, yes. Yeah. So you mean in the group? It's a little bit more organized. Yes, yeah, there's topics. So it lists it in a better way. Like you can make tags in the Facebook group, but the topics inside this other platform are a lot more user-friendly to find. And actually people posting can use topics as well. So it just makes it easier for everyone to find stuff. So in that membership community is where we can have discussions, you can post pictures, everything like that. One of the 4 events that happens every month is Ask Cheryl. So it's a members only Q&A session, and it's live, it's interactive. You can take part, you can submit your questions in advance. And if you can't make it, it's actually uploaded to the members only library. So you can see every recording. As long as you're a member, you have access to every lesson that's included in the membership. So it's an ever-growing resource. The next episode that we have every month is it mold or will it be mold? So this is where we take your photos. So on an ongoing basis, as long as you're a member, you can always submit photos to us. And every month, Cheryl will pick a few to review and do a video lesson that will also be uploaded to the content each month. So for example, we don't have our answers here, but they did happen this month for the beta testers. And if you join, you'll be able to see this full lesson that Cheryl did. So this was one photo that was submitted on this building. And the question was, what is going on here? Is it mold? Is it going to be mold? What could be done or what should have been done to prevent this kind of thing from happening? So if you see this sort of thing happening in your neighborhood, or maybe you have something going on in your home, you can send your photos in and we will get to them. We can't get to all of them every single month, but it will be in our library of photos for Cheryl to review. And this is like a full video episode. The next video episode that we have, or lessons, I should call it, is Will It Work? So Cheryl will take your questions for products. So if you have a specific product in mind or a building material in mind, just send it in. We have a whole section inside the members area where you submit your questions and submit your products you want us to review, and your photos and more. And each month we go through that and Cheryl records a video lesson to answer those questions. So Will It Work this month was actually on the leaf gutter. If you guys have seen that, just general gutter guards. So you've probably seen this commercial a lot lately. So that was the latest product that Cheryl reviewed and gave the pros and cons, when you would use something like that, when you wouldn't, very important things to consider before you decide to use it. And then of course we have the monthly masterclass. So that is the 4th video class that happens. And this is a longer one. It's a video masterclass by either Cheryl and a guest expert, because we do have building pros lined up to do monthly master classes with us. So if you have topics you want to request, we're always asking the members, and we try to curate all the content to answer your questions and create what you want to see. So this month, actually, it's coming out this Friday, Cheryl is doing a class on crawl spaces. So it's all about crawl spaces, and that's going to be the first lesson. So just a sneak peek inside the actual library. Once you log in, you get the invite to join the community. You get the instructions on how to get in there as soon as you join. Every single month, you get a member's guide. So this is delivered to you, emailed to you every month. So you don't have to wonder what's going on or how to find all these events. It's going to be inside this multi-page PDF guide, which does actually include an action checklist for homeowners inside. So every month, there's a checklist from Cheryl on what you can do to maintain your home, keep it mold-free, and avoid having these building defects. We have a section in here to submit your questions. So every month you can go in here and you can ask your questions, add them to our log. This is the replay.
And, this is also a place where we have insulation usually, because there's a window, an outside wall. I try to avoid showers and tubs.
So as you can see, there's the replay. So that was a live event, but if people couldn't make it, it's in here in the library. Then do you have photos? Do you have photos for will it be mold or is it mold? And then there's a full.
I welcome pieces that come together, and oftentimes where we see the leaks are where different.
So that's another video that has been uploaded after the event happened. And then this is where you can submit your questions for products. So you can put your question in and we'll add it to the log of what we're going to review. So
hi guys. We do more damage than it prevents. So there's other gutter.
So that is where you would go ahead and put your questions in. So I'm pretty much done my quick explanation there, but here's the sales page. I will put the link in the comments. So when you arrive here, you can go ahead and take advantage of the rates. There's all the details here on what you get every single month. So everything is accessible online. There's actually an app for that community. So you might be missing the Facebook app, but there is an app for the community if you want to add that to your phone for easy access. Of course, Cheryl is your very qualified host and teacher for the membership, so you never really have to worry about who you're getting your information from, because this is expert information, qualified expert information. You don't have to wonder if it's just some person who heard something from somebody else. And that'll be the same for all of our guests as well. So every guest that comes on, you will know that there's someone who Cheryl knows to be certified and qualified in what they do. So there's more information on all the events that are happening. and frequently asked questions. You can take a look here. We're adding content every month. You're not locked in. You can cancel your membership anytime. Will the price go up? We're not really sure when it will, but as the content grows, there's going to be so much that we will be raising it. Are Cheryl's courses included? No, but members do get special offers every month on various upcoming programs. So there are perks, and there will be more perks. And how do you access the content? In our members only library, all the instructions are given to you once you join. And how can you join? 2 ways. You can join with an annual membership or a month-to-month membership. Both are extremely low right now to become a founding member. And the value in there is at least $50 every single month that you're getting, because normally when we are having a webinar, it's $47 to purchase the webinar. Just have the ever-growing library. The content from the last month doesn't go away once we move into the next month. It's always there for you to go back and rewatch everything if you'd like. So I would highly encourage everyone to take advantage of this. Once you click on your option, you'll end up here. If you're a Building a Safe Home student, check your email, because we did send you guys a very special offer.
Thanks, Crystal. That was great. I'm excited to be in it. Can't wait to see what I'm going to say. I can tell you what I'm going to be. So we are talking about crawl spaces at the end of this week. These are recorded that I'm doing in advance. I have crawl spaces coming up. I have all about attics. Crawl spaces I'm starting to find is pretty meaty. So that may be more than, it'll be a part 1 and a part 2 on that. So all about attics. I'm going to talk about the basics on attics and attic ventilation and what you need to know about attics and mold in attics. And then I am working on one on windows, and windows is another one that's going to be probably more than one part. These are about 20 minutes long is my goal, and or not more than 20 minutes long. So the windows will be, there's the flashing of how to install the windows correctly. There's windows and doors. There's also what kind of windows to buy and what are all the numbers and nomenclature involved in choosing a good quality window, and why you would choose to spend more money on some windows than others. And then the other piece on the windows, well, actually it's a flashing. So there's flashing that goes with windows. And those of you in the Build a Safe Home course have heard me talk about flashing probably a lot more, but for this purpose, I'm going to do a little commentary mini class, this little master class on what flashing is, why we need it in our buildings, and go briefly over all the places in a building that need attention during construction or remodeling, or, you know, or if you're trying to fix your home and that something's gone wrong, those would be places to look to say, did this happen correctly on my home? So these are places. Flashing is a way to direct water away from your building. So thank you, Crystal. That was great. I do think that my understanding of this, one is the app is pretty good. So you go to the host that does this service has an app, and there's instructions for that inside. And I've been able to do it on my phone, so I can actually upload comments on my phone. So, and also I can check them. I can respond when people reply, and you can do the same thing. So that works really great. And I do have posts that are scheduled going forward coming out on a regular basis, and we're going to continue to do that. So it's nice to have it in one place. They are archived by topic, so you'll be able to look at, if you're looking for remediation, you'll be able to look in the remediation section and see what things have I posted on remediation, or have other people posted, what information is out there. There's a separate group for essential oils, and those who are under my sponsorship for essential oils. That group does require purchasing something from Young Living to be in that group, but it doesn't require purchasing much. So, but you get in there. For those people, they will need to upgrade to get the other live events, I believe. So, but like Crystal was saying, there are specials for people buying the other courses, and in terms of ways that we're looking to support the people that are buying the education and really working on the education, so that if there's questions, we can answer them as easily and efficiently as possible. So I hope you guys are going to like this. I'm excited about it. And so let's get to some of your questions. Let's see. So there's a question from Catherine about What should be under slab for a house in Florida? I actually got off of a call this morning with a vapor barrier supplier for under slabs. And he agrees with me, and that company and those experts, that every climate, whether you're in the desert, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in South Carolina, whether in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Washington State, every climate needs to have a vapor barrier under the slab. And this needs to be sealed. There's always moisture under the ground, whether you're in the desert or whether you're in Florida. Florida's pretty swampy, so that's well known. We don't want that water wicking up into our building. So what we have in Florida is, when there hasn't been a vapor barrier, or in other desert communities, there's some codes that suggest you don't need one. Just because the code says you doesn't need one doesn't mean that for those of us that are focused on air quality, that it won't be a good idea. The codes are bare minimum, not necessarily best practices. So take that with a grain of salt, and let's keep the ground, the moisture in the ground. And those of you that have crawl spaces might seem like the crawl space is really dry. That's only dry because the top of the dirt has dried into your crawl space. So we want to keep the ground that's deep down where the water is. There's a water table down there, and there's all the moisture in the world is down there, that it works its way up and then evaporates into the environment. And it doesn't know when it's coming up if it's going to be in your crawl space or under your slab or out in a park somewhere. So this is why we put a vapor barrier down. So we're going to trap the moisture below the vapor barrier under our slab. And then we want to seal that to the walls so that we can not have that moisture being transmitted and raising the humidity in our homes, or causing mold under other finished materials that we might choose to put on the slab. So there's a question from Monique. Quick question for a friend. What is the proper protocol for a leak resulting in a wet ceiling in a rental? This is a leak. It's being investigated. The saturated ceiling to the point of peeling the paint. The landlord says he wants to leave it alone for a few days to dry out before fixing it. My understanding is it needs to be opened up quickly before 48 hours, and some fans need to be put on it, or other professional drying service, or mold will grow. That is correct. It does need to be addressed within 48 hours, and the sooner the better. There's nothing that's going to happen to wait, because if there's a leak above, then that water needs to dry out, and it's not going to dry out through the ceiling. The ceiling is the tip of the iceberg. There's much more water beyond that. I was on a call recently, actually a client call, where the client was discussing that they had an overflow of something, a washing machine. And it was only 2 gallons of water, and the stain in the ceiling was the size of a quarter. Okay, so it wasn't a big deal, they thought, because the stain in the ceiling was only the size of a quarter. But 2 gallons of water went into that cavity that we don't know where it went. And we don't know, did it dry? Did it not dry? Is it sitting up there festering? 2 gallons of water is a lot of water, and the size of a quarter of a stain is nothing. That doesn't mean that there's not damage going to happen already started because of that 2 gallons of water. So always, 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 we want to investigate those kinds of leaks and open up the area, because the other side is surely going to be much worse than the side that we see. For water to go through drywall, especially drywall, it takes a lot of water to go through and peel the paint or create a little quarter-size stain. So that's a lot of water that's really saturated the other side. And usually the other side is not painted. So we have recycled paper coating, and that's basically pre-digested mold food over time. Do be careful with fans. I do recommend dehumidifiers, but do be careful with blowing air. And I would be setting up containment for when anything was open, because oftentimes by the time we can see a stain or peeling paint, the area has been leaking before, maybe lots of times before. And so while it may be new to us because we can see it now, it could be that it's been leaking for months or even years. and that when it does get opened up, it can be quite toxic. So that is the concern. I have a moisture remediation webinar. It's got mold now what? There's also a cleaning one, and there's one on duct cleaning. I think those are actually all in a bundle, which is a really great deal. And there's a PDF on how to hire, and there's a lot of good information in all those webinars, but I would really recommend that to give you the fast track if you're dealing with a leak to move forward and not make mistakes. So the duct cleaning one, you can watch and see the mistakes that I made. So I spent a lot of money making mistakes too. And my goal is for those people that want to avoid the mistakes, I can help you. I can tell you what not to do or what are the pitfalls to avoid. So it happened after it rained. Yeah, I'm sure it's a gutter roof situation. I was involved in a project once, very high-end home, that every time it rained, water came out of a light fixture in the basement, in the middle of the basement. And I was brought on by the insurance company to figure it out after 3 roofers couldn't find the problem. And I did figure it out. So just know that different people have different backgrounds are going to lead them to different conclusions. And I have a very broad building background. And since I can draw and design buildings, and I've worked on them for over 30 years, I have the ability to look at a building and understand how the structure is working, even though I can't see it. But I know where the chases are. I know how water can move, and that's the value that I bring. So I do recommend those online sources, and then I do individual consulting when necessary. And if it's urgent, I will try to fit you in. I can't always guarantee it's the same day or the next day, but we've been able to get people in very quickly. And but go ahead and schedule at the next available, and then you'll be able to contact us to try to change that. So let's see, is there any other questions? There was a question about mold smelling like garbage, possibly. Somebody had a faint rotting smell when they moved their garbage can. What I do want to comment on that is that mold and bacteria all smell different. I mean, every species smells a little different. No, the bacteria has different colors, just like mold is different colors. So neither of them are good. So what you might be smelling could even be bacteria growing somewhere that is not being cleaned. Obviously, I would always check the garbage can itself and crevices and whatnot that might be harboring something. But I'm not surprised. Could it be mold? Yes, it could be mold. It could be bacteria. It could be lots of things, but definitely worth investigating further. Then there was a question about a moisture meter that this person, Jamie, got the moisture meter that I recommend. That's the really low cost one, I think. And I do a video, so check my website for that video on how to check a shower stall. So all drywall and other areas of the home she checked with this meter, 0 to 9%. I would say 9 is a little high. Personally, I would say 0 to 4% is normal. The shower beeped like crazy all over. Okay, so on those moisture meters, I talk about that in the video. We do need to check the scale. So if you're testing tile, then you need to move from the drywall scale or the wood scale, if you're testing wood, to the masonry scale. A little bit counterintuitive. You're doing tile, not masonry, but that's about the closest we can get to tile, is to call it masonry. So that's the number that I use. It's not 100% accurate, but we do want to find the equilibrium and find what the material that you're testing, what's normal for that material. And it will be higher than drywall. It'll be probably higher than wood. So you find that equilibrium number, and then you're going to look for that anomalies to that number. And so I talk about more of that in the video. But the fact that it was beeping, if you're on the masonry setting, is definitely a sign that there's a water problem, that there's a lot of water to be found in where this person was testing on her shower. Baseline looks to be 30%, which is actually pretty high, but it's possible that a tile could be that as a normal number. But if you're getting a lot of 70, 80, and 90%, I would mark them with a painter's tape or something that you can write on, and stand back and look at the pattern and get an idea of, usually there's a heavier place, usually down low or in corners, and then it kind of fans out and gets drier as it goes up from there. The pre-made shower base looks fine. The brand new tiled shower from the tub up and around is all high. Yeah, these are, there's a cheap tool. It's one piece of information in the whole scheme of things. So I checked the humidity in the room overall. I have had clients that just didn't use a moisture exhaust fan for a long time, and lots of showers later ended up with a lot of sticky buttress behind all their surfaces. So know that drywall is absorbent and it will take in the humidity. That's why monitoring humidity is important, and paying attention to if the humidity in one room is greater than it is in all the other rooms. That's odd. And there has to be a reason why that's happening. And usually that reason is that there's stored water somewhere that's drying and adding to the humidity load in the room. And maybe it's possible it's getting wet again and it never actually has the potential to fully dry. So the air and the humidity in the space can lower. So definitely check the humidity in your bathroom, check it when you're showering, see how high does it go, then how long does it take to get down to normal levels, which I would say would be 40–45% in the summer. The winter, it might be less than that, and depending on your climate and where you're located. But generally, I would be shooting for in the 40s. This question was talking about putting concrete board up behind these kind of showers. Just know anything concrete is also very porous, so it needs a waterproofing membrane layer. Any seams need to be sealed. Water, you should be able to take a shower before you tile. So there should be a waterproof membrane that's all sealed so that you could take a shower in your shower before you put the finishes up. That's what I would be shooting for. And then you won't have a leak. Couldn't possibly have a leak. So, okay. Now there was a question from Joe about buying a brand new house, and they saw little dots on the ceiling. It looked like coconut oil was sprayed. That's a bit odd. Went away, and then basically mainly in the restroom, noticed these dark spots. I have seen that quite a bit in bathrooms, and that would be a sign of high humidity for sure, and possibly more mold somewhere else nearby in the area that you can't see. So that's something to be worried about and be aware of, and be trying to figure out why this is happening. It's not normal. It shouldn't be happening. And start with checking the humidity. You could try the moisture meters. They may or may not measure far enough behind the surface to evaluate this, but then I would probably do an exploratory test and remove a small piece somewhere. Know that when you're cutting open drywall, you want to put some precautions in place in case you find something major. Do a big enough area that it'll be easy to see. Don't do a little hole. And know that drywall is cheap, and that if somebody's taking it down who is aware that it's going to go back and cut some pretty good cuts that are simple and clean, it will be very easy to put it back. And so this is actually one of the more minimal evaluations that you can do. It is obviously invasive, but sometimes really worthwhile. And sometimes you just got to look. Weird stain, can't figure out what it is, and you got to look. So Stephanie is building a house, and their builder is recommending waterproofing the exterior foundation walls. She's talking about some products along with exterior foam insulation boards. That is the best practice. I think that sounds great. The basement will be insulated and unfinished. The individual products, I don't get into the individual products very much. If it's on the outside of your building, you want to know a couple of things. You want to know that the company has been around for a while, and that they're reputable, and that they're going to be around to cover the warranty if there's a problem. I never like to use something that's new right off the invention table. So just like if you were to buy a car, you might have learned over time not to buy the first year the first model car comes out. We did that once, and it turned out to be a lemon. It was a nightmare. But you don't want to be the first one to try the product and have it applied in your home unless it's something that you're willing to redo. So So that would be one thing is, has this product been around? Is it tried and true? What do we know about the company? Has the company been around? There's a lot of products that get made that sound great. It's always marketing, marketing sounds great. And then 5 years down the road, they realize they end up going out of business because the product had flaws. And so rather than cover all the warranties of all the flaws that happen because of UV or misapplications or poor chemical reactions, all kinds of things that can happen, then they just go out of business. And so you're stuck with nothing. So I would look for products that are from reputable companies and tried and true. Outside, I'm not as worried about off-gassing and all the rest of that because that air outside should not be coming in your home. What we're worried about in our homes is the air that is in our homes that's being trapped in our very tight homes. And so outside the foundation, that's not likely to be affecting your indoor air quality. So, so I would go with the best that you could. And that sounds like you got a good contractor so far, Stephanie. Anne posted some bunch of pictures. I think it was her daughter is buying or something, a house and struggling with mold issue. That one was, I would really need to see, that one would be prime for me to do a virtual inspection on. The moisture meter readings they were getting on the OSB roof deck were 9, which is not unusual to me. That's right in the place that it should be. There are some areas in some pictures that it looks like could be some problems. I couldn't zoom in on the pictures. So when I do my consulting, people are uploading photos onto a Google Drive, and then I share my screen, we go through them. I'm often looking at them ahead of time on the premium consults, the comprehensive consults, and I can zoom in. And even with just our phones, these pictures can have really good resolution, but I do need to be able to zoom in so that I can see details to ascertain what might be going on. Know that there is a lot of stains that are harmless, and there's a lot of stains that could be from mold or water damage. My Moisture Basics course goes over those quite a bit. In the Build a Safe Home course, there is a webinar in there that only you have access to these days that I talk a lot about wood stuff. And so that would be helpful if you're in the Build a Safe Home course. That's my master class. I do come on live in that class separately to answer questions once every 4 to 6 weeks. And that's a very robust course. And so we've got a lot of people in there. That has its own group additionally to being in the membership. And Christy was asking questions about mold under eaves. The first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, well, are there exhaust fans exhausting anywhere there? Because that's usually related. So is there a kitchen exhaust coming out below the eaves? Is there soffit venting of bathroom vents that you can't even see where they're trying to blow air out the soffit vents? That's not a successful thing to do. The soffit vents, which is the underside of the roof overhang, are meant for air intake. So we never want to be trying to expel hot and humid air, moist air outside, blowing down. It wants to rise through a soffit vent that is right next to an air intake vent, which is what soffit vents are. So that would be the first thing I would be looking for to rule out whether that could be related. Sometimes I've seen mold on siding just because it's on the shady side of a home or something. I would start out with just cleaning that. I use Thieves Cleaner. It's an essential oil-based cleaner. That is a cleaner that I have found the most success with. I have tried a lot of the stuff people talk about in the group, and you will see me shutting down some commenting sometimes because I don't want to promote products that I don't recommend. I have spent a ton of money buying all kinds of things and all kinds of products, and I'm telling you which ones I've chosen to use over and over again. And so if I'm not mentioning the one that you're thinking of, then it's probably because I either haven't had the need to try it and it's a new product because I'm already satisfied with what I have, or because I did try it and it didn't work. And I don't like to come on and badmouth companies and company products. So you just know that if I'm not talking about it, then I probably don't recommend it. So, and you can sign up and be in my sponsorship to buy those, to purchase the essential oil-based products. And that does give access to the group as long as you continue to buy stuff. So, and that's how that works. Let's see. So that's Hawaii. Is there any other new questions? No. Best way to keep moisture and humidity out of bathrooms? Is there a particular vent, fan? You know, I might talk about this. That's a good topic to have for the Will It Work topic, is to talk a little bit more about that. But in a nutshell, you want to make sure your fan is sized for the size of room that you have, and that the venting is direct and not going up and down and all around and X, Y, Z over and then up, something like the soffit vent. So we need that pipe to go straight and direct. Read the installation requirements and instructions. They will tell you how far you can blow this air out. Some cases, I've seen people, ductwork is going like a snake in the attic. There's no way that air is ever going out, even though they're running an exhaust fan. So fans come in different motor sizes and they have different powers. And so in terms of expelling air, so a bigger room will require a bigger motor. There's some types of fans that are concealed and that can be zoned to do multiple rooms. Those can be attached to an HRV or an ERV as well. Just know if you ever use an HRV or an ERV, and that'll be another topic I'll probably talk about, you want to be able to turn it off when it's really high humidity outside. So this is not something that you'll be able to leave on all the time. So the garage, let's see, Lynn is talking about a brand new garage that doesn't have windows coming in. She's worried about mold growing there because it's humid in Georgia. And I will tell you, I am running a humidifier or dehumidifier, excuse me, in my garage right now. I mean, it doesn't run all the time, but I run it in my garage. We've had rainy days, and if the car comes in the garage with water on it from being out in the rain, I want to control that humidity. I don't want to trap all that rainwater on my car and have that be saturating the drywall. And so I do recommend running dehumidifiers in garages, summer and winter. Snow would be the same thing. Plus it'll just help keep the humidity down, especially if it's a tightly closed garage. Obviously, if you're going to leave the garage door open for a while, turn it off. It's not going to work to dehumidify the whole neighborhood. And so always keep that in mind when using a dehumidifier. If windows are open, it's not going to work. It needs a defined space, get a size, or use multiple dehumidifiers if the square footage you're trying to address is bigger than what the unit can handle. Several folks in the neighborhood leave their garage door cracked open at the bottom providing air movement does help, but I'm not sure a crack of the door at the bottom is going to be enough, because you need to have an in and an out. And I also find critters like to go in those places, even though they can be, if they're really hot in certain places, maybe they don't want to go in, but in the winter and fall and spring, they might really want to go in. So I would find another solution short of leaving your garage door partially open. You can always install windows too. So, is limestone mold resistant? Not in my experience, it's not. Lime is mold resistant, lime itself, but the limestone has little pores in it of basically where water can flow through by capillary action from cell to cell, and there's a little air entrenched in there, and it seems that mold will find its little way in there in the little water puddles that sit in there and take root. So it has not been my experience that there's any material that's mold resistant. I just posted a little meme on that today, actually. So check out my Instagram or my YouTube videos or my public Facebook page, which where we're at right now. So you already found me. Mold grows on anything, and it doesn't matter if it has a warranty that it's mold resistant. Read the warranty. And I don't know, I may have to offer a free month of membership or something even more significant. If anybody can find a material that is warranted not to grow mold under any conditions. So read the warranties and look for the limited exclusions. This is usually what it's called, or the limitations of liability. So I have a YouTube video on this, and I read through one, and I show you exactly where to look, where it says that this mold resistant paint coating is not guaranteed to work if the product gets wet, or if it's exposed to high humidity, or if it gets dirty on the surface. Okay, now I ask you, we're not going to have mold if we don't, on any material, if we don't have water, high humidity, and dirt. So that's why they can make those claims. But no, you're not going to have a situation if you are not going to have those things and you don't need their coating either. So I recommend spending your money on keeping the water out, keeping the humidity out. And if there's a way to keep things clean, that's a good idea. Mold is on dust, and dust is everywhere, quite frankly. I do talk about this more in the Moisture Basics course. So for those of you that need to hear that, said a few other ways. But that course, I talk about all the ways our buildings get wet, which are being overlooked. And those insights will help you look at your building with a new set of eyes, your home, your office, your garage, and see things that you never can unsee. Because I show lots of pictures. I go over 10 defects in that video, specifically with pictures. And there's another one called Before You Buy or Rent, which is a 3-part series of me talking and going through 2 of those videos were me going through other people's pictures. One of them was mostly inside stuff where I filled in the gaps that we didn't talk about through the pictures others sent. But you can never unsee this stuff, and you will start to see it everywhere. But that will help when you're looking at your own home, or you're looking to buy a home, where you be able to exclude some things just by looking at photographs and say, okay, I don't see how this roof's going to drain, or this drainage around the site looks like it's going to be hard to fix, or even see staining and other things that I point out in that webinar. Oh, let's see if I could do another one here. Oh, Lisa's asking, I found an area of mold in our house we purchased a few months back. I need inspection and remediation. Where do I start to find someone that's honest? I know no one that's dealt with this in my area, and she's in Birmingham. I think I probably have turned that off, and I just want everybody to know in the Facebook group that we don't do recommendations of contractors. And the reason why, I'm going to explain that, is because I have worked with people, I have recommended people, and inevitably, even if they were good for one person, there's a different crew or a different story in another situation. And ultimately, it ends up coming on to my credibility, and I'm not willing to take on that credibility of who's being recommended. So there are a lot of people all over online, Facebook, who appear to be your fellow compatriots in the world of mold, who might actually be paid to share a certain contractor's information. Don't fall for it. Do your own research, get multiple bids, multiple prices on your work, get stuff in writing to compare, ask about their credentials. My remediation Got Mold Now What webinar, I have a PDF with that. I talk a lot about how to hire and all the associations that you can go to find people associated with those groups for their certification, which will be a good place to start. Know that even my duct cleaning, I used someone that had certification, and it was a scam. So none of this is going to be 100%. There's no government regulation around this. Some states have some licensing. Florida, Texas are 2 of them, but it's minimal. So when somebody tells you that they are going to follow IICRC S520, and that's what I talk about in the course, that's the standard they should be following, ask them to see it. Hey, great. Can I see your copy of the standard? If they can't show you one and you can't read it yourself, then they may not have read it either. And so I see a lot of people saying that, and I know what's in there. And I go and look at their bid for clients, and I'm appalled because they're not doing what the standard says. And so There's a lot of people that talk a good story. There's a lot of good people out there separating the wheat from the chaff and figuring out who's going to be the right person for you in your area is going to take some research. If the person, I always ask them, what do they think about health? Does this affect people's health? If they hesitate and say it's a big scam and that there's nothing wrong with breathing in mold, then I would say, thank you very much and goodbye. You want to have somebody that does believe in this being a health issue because they'll take better precautions. And I've seen all across the gamut of people with very high expertise that did not, that don't believe it's a health issue. So I'm always shocked. All right, there's a lot of questions in here. Let's see. I see now I'm actually in the Facebook. Hi, Mary. Hi, Jamie. Kendra, Sue, Catherine. We talked about your question. Kendra signed up. Great, thanks. This is going to help us fund and make sure everything is going well, and the price probably will go up. But I think for those of you that are in it at this stage, we want to, as long as you stay in it, you're going to be locked into that price. So, if some of these questions that you need to talk to Crystal about, I see Kendra, care@avoidingmold.com. I'm not sure some of the details. Crawl space, Sarah's asking a question about what I recommend for crawl spaces. I've seen some encapsulated, 100% encapsulated, no exposed dirt. I do not recommend running the vapor barrier up the wall. And there are a lot of good companies that are suggesting this or showing that in their installation details. I do not recommend it. And I have other research to show why I don't. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit in the course that I'm doing for this Friday, the little mini masterclass. And going forward, that may have to do a section just on that, because I just got off, like I said, I was on a call earlier this morning with the manufacturer of vapor barrier materials, and we talked for an hour about this, because their company was showing images of doing the whole wall. And I had commented on their website that some science resources I shared, and I said, I don't know that this is a good idea. So we talked for a long time. It was a really great conversation, but I would definitely 100% encapsulate it a crawl space. Treat your crawl space like it's a short basement. That's going to be the best solution. So the full basement portion has an open crawl space that has a barrier. Is the barrier sealed to the walls? That's critical. So that would be the most critical thing. You may need to run a dehumidifier in the crawl space separately, depending on how big it is. I do recommend dehumidification. It really should be conditioned. You don't need air conditioning ever in a crawl space. It's all coming from the floor above, but heat would be helpful. Heat is very drying. B is saying, would you select fill be okay in lieu of gravel bed under the slab? So the point in the under the slab gravel is it's called a capillary break. And the idea of it is that it's big enough that it doesn't get saturated and that water flows through the material. So sand may not be as good of a solution. Clay would be awful. Pea gravel, something that's a little bit bigger, has more spaces for water. And because of that, water will drain away from the barrier and not create a vapor pull towards it. So, so the goal is to have some air spaces. And so there's different sizes of all this stuff, but fine would probably not be good. We want to have it be a little bit more coarser gravel, but it doesn't have to be like 1 inch pointy. We don't want to poke holes in the stuff. So usually it's kind of like a pea gravel kind of a thing. But every location might have something different available. Catherine, what kind of drain does need to be under the vapor barrier? So I see a lot of that research, and I would try to not put a drain under your vapor barrier if you can avoid it, because it has to go somewhere. And that means you'd have to have a sump pump. So I would try to manage the water on the outside of your building. And if you have to put a drain in on the outside, then you do it there. Generally, I don't like digging down around foundations, because the foundation as built is stable. And as soon as you start removing the dirt from the outside of a foundation, you could change the structural impacts of what was holding the wall in place to begin with. And sometimes the dirt is helping hold the wall in place. So I'm very cautious about digging down around existing foundations. And so this is coming from an architect who has a structural background. There's other people who go out there and do it. Well, I don't know. I'm a little bit cautious about that because I see what can go wrong. But I would get the water away above ground. If necessary, there's something called an underground roof that you could install, which is basically a vapor barrier over the ground on the outside. Get that water flowing away, get the water at least 10 feet away, and then use swales and French drains if necessary to continue the path of the water as far away as possible. Kendra, I live in Ohio and we just bought a property. We want to do a slab because we don't want to deal with basement flooding here in Ohio. Our land is farming land and we are underground, and there are underground tiles. We know we have to redirect the tiles around the house and the future leach field. Yes, you do. Is there anything else we should note about these tiles? The county explained that they should help with water drainage away from the house, but I don't want to mess. Okay, so there are places that we can't do basements. There's places we can't do crawl spaces that have a high water table, for instance, those kinds of things, or you have, it sounds like a high water table and they're using drain tiles to drain it away. I'd have to see more details to completely understand it, but you need to know that your slab will wick up water too. And the difference in a slab versus a basement is in the basement, you can go down there and see that it's getting wet. In Ohio, you're going to have foundation walls because you do have freezing in the winter. And so the slab is going to have walls around it. And if those walls, I just did a video on Instagram on this, I think I posted it. If the walls leak under your slab, you just can't see it, but it will impact your foundation. It could cause differential sediment in the foundation to move, and it could cause moisture drive against the slab and drying into your home. So that can get trapped and cause mold. So there are limitations, I believe, and I recommend related to finishes on concrete slabs, but you can do every kind of foundation well, and you can do them all poorly. And so the details matter. That's why I have 16 hours of stuff, I think right now in the Build a Safe Home course masterclass. That is a great place to go if you're building and get all the basics down. If you need to consult with me on some individual details, we can do that, but you'll be way far ahead. Where can I find a very low or mold-free apartment? Yeah, I get that. My kids have lived through college, and my very sensitive daughter had a tough time. We moved her, I think, 4 times. And so far, you can enlighten us on an apartment. That only thing out there is LEED certified apartments. The LEED had architects involved. Unfortunately, LEED is not focused on, it's a checklist. I'm LEED certified. I could certify LEED buildings and I could be more involved in that. I don't, because it's a bit of a checklist of a thing that isn't allowing people to think rationally, and you can get points for putting on a solar panel that is in the shade, for instance. Okay, that's stupid. You get points for a bike rack. Okay, really? But there's like games that get played, and I haven't seen air quality be addressed in a way, and they do have a well program, but I keep looking at it, and it's more about off-gassing of products, which has flaws in it as well, because some products don't have to identify that they're off-gassing. It's very thick forest of stuff to weed through. But I think there's a good chance that a LEED building might be better. I would surely give it a try. If you ever seen the moldy video that's out there, I might have a copy if it's not available anymore. There's LEED certified buildings with mold in that video. So, a lot of the mold we see in our buildings are an unintended consequence of the sustainability movement. We just haven't managed the moisture piece. I am a fan of sustainability. I am a LEED certified. I was a Green Globes professional. I used to teach sustainability to my peers, code officials and structural engineers in one of my prior jobs. So I did a ton of research on it. Ended up changing some of my opinions about things. That's another topic. But I can see why good ideas, well-intentioned individuals and programs can lead to unintended consequences that we don't anticipate because we just haven't tried these things yet. So there's a lot of experiments going on right now. And I think the HRV, ERV thing is also one of them, where it's becoming pretty apparent that if you're in a hot and humid climate, bringing in fresh air that's hot and humid all the time is not going to be something that your heating and air conditioning system, primarily air conditioning system, will be able to handle. And so what do we do about that? Big conundrum. So stuff just keeps showing up. Paula, do I have an opinion on glass shower doors? There is mold growth in the metal frame on mine. Frameless might be better for sure. It's one less place to collect water. The frames on those are kind of like a channel, and so they do have a tendency to collect water. So I would say frameless would be better. Just get something quality. Look at the installation instructions even before you have the person install them for you, because we have experienced that people don't always read the directions. So even people who are qualified to do the work on our homes. So a quick story on that is my husband's here on and watching, is that when we built our house, we had some skylights put in, and thank goodness my husband had been a roofer back in his college days, and he could go up on the roof, because when they were done with the skylights, there were these extra pieces laying around the grass. And I was like, I don't think there's supposed to be any extra pieces. This is a flashing kit that all supposed to go on the skylights. Bought a very expensive product that you should have been really waterproof. So what we ended up doing is my husband ended up going on the roof with the guys that were doing the work with the instructions. And they took it all apart and put it all back together following the instructions. And guess what? There were no pieces left over. So we found where the pieces went. And to this day, we don't have any leaks in our skylight. So unfortunately, we have to educate ourselves. And just like we do in our healthcare, we're ultimately responsible for what we do, and to ourselves and to our homes, and what other people are going to do. And I do my best to provide the fast track to information that can be helpful. And yeah, that's the most I can do. Catherine, how can we submit to you a house plan to review? Oh, that would be through a consultation. So just go, depending on the size, usually I would recommend that be a comprehensive consultation, because I need to look at it ahead of time. And then when we jump on the call, I'll tell you what I saw and what I think and what could be improved. Always check with your builders or your architects to make sure they're open to a consultation, because sometimes that gets kind of rocky when I suggest things and they don't want to do it. But I do have resources on anything that I suggest, and most of the stuff I suggest is actually in codes, just that they're codes that have been updated and people don't know about them. Carrie, we're building a home on a tight budget. Which materials are best to avoid? That's a really big question. Corinne Segura is in my group, and she does materials. They change constantly. I don't even try to stay on top of all that. I'm working definitely low VOC, quality materials. You get what you pay for. Tried and true. We've talked about that. Something, don't use the first thing that ever came out and now it's brand new, just launched last week, and you're going to be the first one to put it on your house. I would never do that. Not in a million years, because I see way too many things that go awry with brand new products that sounded great and then never turned out to be much. So, it's to solve mold, you have to do the whole system. So moisture basics, of course, I talk more about that. It's not, our buildings are not just a bunch of materials, they are a system. It's just like we're not just our blood and our lungs and our liver and our spleen and our skin. We're how all that works together. And our buildings are like that too. Okay, let's see. There's a lot more here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to all these. Let me see. Let's see. What would order of remediation, leaky window and wall damage, exterior stucco that needs to be replaced? This is silvery. we want new windows. Do we remediate the old first? Oh, if you want to put in new windows, then you're going to want to remove. All right, anybody with this situation, you want to go back to like a new construction situation. So you're going to want to stucco, remove the stucco. And they can house wrap it to protect it, but then you can go and remove the windows without the stucco. And ideally, you'd remove the stucco and there's already some house wrap. Maybe it's not done correctly. You'll be able to identify that. Then remove your windows, reinstall your windows. If necessary, if there is no house wrap or water resistant membrane, that would be the time to put it on before you put the windows in. So you take the window out, do your house wrap, water resistant membrane, proper details there, then install the window, then the stucco goes over that. Last thing. So you should be able to get your house temporarily watertight without the stucco. The stucco is just decorative. Yeah. And there's a stucco association, by the way, everyone, that has a lot of good details on it. The Stucco Manufacturing Association or something like that. I will be sharing some things in the group on that because that's a really good topic. And I do talk about that in other places. Mold safe course, I think mold safe building, but the mold safe building, I did talk about that in the past. Liz, moisture signs on the wall and ceiling without a water stain. I was told there's no moisture. No, if there's no, okay, she was told there's no moisture if there's no stain. No, no way, no way. This is what I would look for. I look for dust, powdery stuff. I look for sparkles. I look for very slim, very slight staining, and sometimes moisture meter readings. So we cannot, by the time you can see a stain, that's a ton of water. I mean, just look at the material. It's thick. I mean, it's at least a ½ inch thick, maybe 5/8. The water has to soak through there. So it's gotten wet a lot before the water shows up. So completely 100% wrong. There is no evidence that you have to have a stain. No. You can have a lot of water behind drywall and see nothing on the outside. And there's a lot of people that do have damage coming from the outside of their buildings, that the drywall looks fine, the insulation looks fine, and then they remove the insulation and they can see the sheathing on the exterior wall is completely trashed, wet and moldy. And that air is coming into the home at certain times due to air pressure differentials. Another long topic. Are metal roofs less likely to leak than shingled roofs? They all can be done well or poorly. I don't think so. I mean, that metal roofs have a challenge with condensation. They have their own different challenges. They're very much more expensive and they are really nice. And if done well, they're great. But shingled roofs can be done well as well. I would avoid flat roofs in both scenarios. Kendra, flat roofs can be done well too. The one thing everyone needs to know is that flat roofs aren't ever flat. By code, they have to have a 2% slope somewhere, and hopefully somewhere that's managed well. So flat roofs often end up with ponding. That's not okay. It's not to code. It's not supposed to happen. So yeah, flat roofs aren't flat. They should never be designed flat. There are good products for flat roofs, but again, you got to install them right. Is it beneficial to have a bathroom exhaust fan directly over the shower? Great question. I haven't done it. I don't think it would hurt, but I have never done it. So I haven't felt the need to do it. I do tile my ceilings in the bathroom, and I would actually recommend a vapor tight light fixture, and then the shower, the exhaust fan right outside the shower. The other thing is if you have a tub or you're running water for some other reason, that you might want the exhaust fan to work. But I'm not sure if that would be good for the fan. There may be some that recommend it and that are fine. I don't have an overwhelming concern about it. Obviously, the point is to take the moisture vapor out, but I think there's potential of leakage more around the housing and everything else, and I just get a little queasy on that. So I would tile the ceiling and I'd use a vapor tight light fixture and then put the exhaust fan right outside the shower, and that's what I have in my house. Lisa, I'm interested in remodeling my bathroom and considering between the Dwell membership and the build up. Oh, what's the difference? The good question. What's a big difference between the Dwell membership and the building and Build Safe Home? All right, so the Build a Safe Home course, I start with site, then I go to foundations, and each module is got little modules under it. So there's 5, 6, or 7 modules under each topic to talk about all the things that you need to know and explain the different options and why things are important and what you need to know, and lots of resources of where to get more information. I'm not going to be able to reproduce that in the Dwell Institute community. But the support, there's a private group within Dwell Institute community for the members of the course. And I come on live separately for those members because the assumption is that they've actually have a higher level of knowledge because they've listened to me talk and listened to me teach on all these other topics, and we can take it to the next level. All of these cases, you can submit your questions in advance. Definitely that happens a lot in the course live call, is that I'm answering questions people have submitted. And there's libraries and libraries of me doing that in the past. So there's a lot to listen to. You can listen to while you're driving or cooking dinner, weeding in the garden, and then go back and look at pictures if you need to. Some of the Q&A doesn't include pictures. A lot of it does. I actually kind of make presentations to answer the questions sometimes in that, where I'm coming on and I'm actually doing a presentation with your question and pictures. So there's a more robust cost to the Build a Safe Home membership, and there's a lot more in it. So we're not replacing that, and you'll be able to be in the Build a Safe Home, the Dwell Well, when you're in that course, and then you can extend at a discount. All right, so what order do you do the remediate? Oh, Shirley Ann is saying, what order do you do the following activities to remediate the house in after remediating the source of the molds? Addressing your belongings, clean the HVAC vents, replace the furnace. Oh, that's a big question. Remodel the kitchen. Obviously, you want to clean first before you. So it is challenging if you're going to need to use the HVAC, because the HVAC is contaminated oftentimes. But you don't want to clean the HVAC if you haven't cleaned the building. So there's kind of a do it at the same time or right after you clean the building. Then maybe you have to see what the situation is and how much contamination are you going to get moving these materials in and out. I will tell you the quick tip from that course, the remediation webinar, which I recommend highly. The bundle includes duct cleaning. So that bundle I'm really proud of that bundle. That's really good. There's 5 courses, I think, in there. And I also use essential oils, and there's a course on that, but, or a webinar on that, I should say. Is that, what is your situation? But the quick tip I'd say is use containment and use 2 layers. So plastic is cheap. Labor to put it up is not that bad. So you want to do 2 separate layers. So you put 1 layer of containment up, then you put a second layer of containment up. They're not connected, but they're touching probably. So that when you're done with your remediation, you leave the outside layer up and you just remove 1 dirty layer. Without 2 layers, when you take down that containment is dirty and it's going to contaminate everything else. Now, this is not to say that you can't possibly have cross-contamination anyway, because I did in our house when we did something that we needed to clean. And that's what led me to the essential oils. But that's what we did. And that is the best practice, is 2 layers of plastic, a vestibule doorway, so that if you find that you're still doing some cleaning, you still have a layer of plastic up, or you can add another layer back. So, Karen's asking about black spots in a rubber gasket. And front-loading machines, washing machines, are known to have a lot of problems. So I would talk to your manufacturer. I'd probably try to replace it and get the manufacturer to do that. Oh, I know Carrie's not having fun due to mold. I get it. I totally get it. I listen to so much of what you guys share, and I have PTSD because I lived it too in over 17 years. For those of you who don't know my story, my daughter was affected 17 years ago, and it's been a constant journey that never ends, up and down and up and down. And she's doing great. We're all doing great. My husband did get very sick. I got sick, autoimmune disease. My husband had autoimmune disease. And we're doing great, but that doesn't mean that we don't have stumble blocks and that we don't falter. I'm super sensitive to metals, right? Still. So we just keep learning and moving forward. And I always ask people to share with others as they go forward. So I think we're out. We're not, I don't know, but anyway, that's all we're going to do for now. Check the links for how to access, and I will see you hopefully in the membership. Thanks for watching. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. For more free information on safe building, avoiding mold, and water damage, visit avoidingmold.com.